Hello and welcome back to Cargo Live, IAG Cargo's live stream webinars. Thank you very much for joining us today for our 9th episode in the series. Whether you're a returning Cargo Live fan or joining us for the first time, it would be really great to hear where you're tuning in from in the world, so please do let us know in the comments box on your screen. My name is Emma Ramsey. I'm from the marketing team here at IAG Cargo, and I'll be your host for today's episode. So we've got a really exciting lineup of guest speakers on the agenda today. First up is IAG Cargo's Chief Sales and Marketing Officer, Camilo Garcia. Then we'll hear about the recent air cargo market dynamics from Marco Bloman at Accenture Cargo. Then we'll hear about the need for sustainability in the air cargo industry from Catherine Brost at DHL Global Forwarding. And finally, IAG Cargo's Head of Pharmaceuticals will talk about our constant climate product and new Premier facility that we unveiled this year at London Heathrow. Also, this is an interactive session with a Q&A at the end. So if you do have any questions for our guest speakers, then please pop them into the comments box on your screen. Or you can email them to marketing team. Further ado, let me introduce you to our first guest speaker, IAG Cargo's Chief Sales and Marketing Officer, Camilo Garcia. Over to you, Camilo.
Thank you, Emma, and good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. It's almost midday here in Madrid, so very, very pleased to be at this episode. And it's really a great opportunity for us at IAG Cargo to share with our customers, with our partners around the world, what's happening within IAG Cargo, and share also some insights of what's happening in our industry. And on that note, I would really like to thank Catherine, Marco, for joining us today from DGF and Accenture, and of course you, Jordan, also as our Head of Pharmaceutical, and being able to share with the audience what we are doing in this field. I would also like perhaps to start sharing with you what the past 6 months have been for me being back at IAG Cargo. Very intense, very, very busy in terms of adapting back to the business, but very pleased to see the changes and the transformation that our company has gone through. I've been very, very focused in spending time with our customers, with our teams around the network. And as such, I've been very lucky to be able to participate in significant customer events, but we're also on some internal activity. As soon as I entered IAG Cargo again, we were privileged to open our new Premier building. Jordan will tell you more about it, but that was a great opportunity to share time with our UK customer base and European customer base. CNS in the States gave us a great opportunity to share space and time with customers in a region which is key to IAG Cargo, with 27 different origins being served by our different airlines. We're very, very pleased with the relationship that we have built there. Then we had Air Cargo Europe in Munich. Again, great opportunity to meet our customers from around the world, also suppliers who were there, who were very pleased. We were very, very pleased to see and share our vision, our strategy for the future. Soon after, I was pleased to join Jerem and the team in Hong Kong and then in Shanghai, meeting customers, learning all the developments that from an e-commerce perspective and tech perspective that are taking place in this region and how we can facilitate those movements. In the next couple of weeks, I'll be privileged to visit India, a market which personally I find hugely attractive and also very important to IAG Cargo. But without really spending too much time in the far future, by the end of this week, I'll be in the States and sharing time over the weekend with some of our key customers in North America. From a network perspective, also lots of developments have taken place. We've started our flights to Cincinnati, a 5 per week basis, and we have very recently opened this station also for constant climate products. We're back in China, operating Shanghai and Beijing, and again, as I said, enabling e-commerce and tech moves into our hubs and beyond, as we do in the case of North America and into Latin America. Third, on the topic of sustainability. Great topic and great to have Catherine today talking about it. But we have also made our moves internally. We have appointed a sustainability manager, Salim Saeed, who will be working with partners, suppliers, and internally to make sure that we reach our goal of 10% of our flights being powered by sustainable air fuel on 2013. We're heading in the right direction. And this year, I can share that customers and partners like DHL have already purchased in the tune of 11.5 million liters. And last but not least, I wanted to touch bases on this topic of distribution. We have made significant progress in how many bookings we process digitally. Well, this is only the beginning. More than half of our bookings are already being made digitally. But we're aware that we need to bring changes to our technology, to our offering, which will enable our customers to fulfill all their bookings online. And that's why in Q1 of 2024, we're going to be rolling out spot rates online on .com, iagcargo.com, or throughout our API partnerships. So with that, the best rate will always be available online. And that has been one of the key messages that we have received from our customers. We've listened, we've taken action, and we're really, really excited to take our online penetration very, very close to 100%. So without further ado, I'm going to hand back over to Emma, and then very keen to hear what Marco, Catherine, and Jordan have to say on their respective topics. So thank you again, everyone. Looking forward to see you soon, be it in your region or in one of our hubs. Back to you, Emma.
Thank you very much for that, Camilo. Our next guest speaker is the Managing Director and Head of Accenture Cargo, Marco Blomen. Over to you, Marco.
Thanks, Emma. Appreciate the invite, and would like to basically share some of the insights that we're seeing with the latest market dynamics in the world. Let me see if I can share my screen. Here we go. So basically in 8 minutes, I would like to guide you through some dynamics that we see in market circumstances, both in demand and supply. Some of the key trends that we're basically seeing is demand and supply are really differing quite a bit and diverging even further in the second quarter. And especially demand fell, the latest data point that we have in July, with 9 percentage points, with North America to Europe down by 20%. We see some commodities that are basically either disappearing or suffering big time, like high tech. Capacity is still increasing. I will guide you through that due to the growth of wide body belly space, and then the short-term outlook. It's getting slowly better, but it's very slow. So as I'm guiding you through this, is what we're seeing in terms of demand. It really depends on the trade lane that you're looking at. So overall, the latest data point we have for July is close to 9% down. But with big regional differences, it just hinted on North America to Europe down by 20 points, intra-Asia still down by 15 percentage points, and this is the traditional air trade. We do see some signals of the business from Asia into North America picking up. You may have heard about the iPhone launch, has been relatively successful. We're also seeing lots of e-commerce business that's not in our air trade statistics, that's also rising strongly. So there are some differences by trade lane that we can monitor. Now, what is interesting to see is the comparisons versus last year. First quarter, we were really seeing double-digit declines. It was a terrible start of the year. Second quarter hasn't all been that great either. The July data point that I shared with you just now is finally getting into negative single digits. And we have a tool called the Nowcast, which is basically using all kinds of different leading indicators and other sources to determine what the next few months could look like, and let's say the last historical month. And we are seeing slowly and surely some improvement there. Please do consider, of course, that last year, fourth quarter was actually horrendous if you compare it to traditional Q4 peaks. Therefore, the Nowcast also is signaling an improvement overall, but also an improvement versus Q4. So we would expect that Q4 of 23 will show a positive growth rate overall versus the Q4 of last year. So that's happening in terms of demand, and especially if we look at some of the commodities, what is it that is so far year to date we're seeing less of? And primarily it's a combination of raw materials, which is plastics, textile yarns for the fashion industry, which is really down, but especially high tech, and especially in, let's say, in our category of chemicals, which includes pharmaceuticals. So let me highlight on those a little bit. And on the right-hand side, you can see some detailed commodities which are suffering more. So both in what you see here, the chemical products and the pharmaceuticals commodities, there are quite some COVID-related commodities that, of course, we're not shipping anymore this year, but we were shipping last year. So that business is basically gone. And, it's not totally 162,000 and 108,000 tons, but it's a big chunk of it. So if that business is gone, then you're losing basically 1 to 2% of global air freight on an annual basis of those commodities that are just not going to be flying again and hopefully also not in the future. The other industry that's really suffering quite a bit is high tech. So we've lost already year to date almost 170,000 tons of laptops. That's significant, but also the smartphones and all the telecom equipment, semiconductors, they're all still suffering quite a bit. And at this moment, we're not seeing an improvement there, except of course for the iPhones and other phones, as of we're expecting in September onwards into the Q4. So if that is what is happening to demand, then it's also very interesting to see what's happening in capacity terms, right? What is capacity doing? And also here, you see very big differences by trade lane. For example, on the transatlantic, we are seeing some increases. Well, we saw demand going down. We see also increases on Transpac. Of course, North America into Europe direct. There's a bit of a decrease, and we do see quite some changes from Asia into the Gulf, which is positive, and then onwards into Europe. But having said that, it is also interesting to look at it in terms of perspective in what kind of capacity is being deployed around the world. And logically, but it's good to see it in the numbers, as we are all flying on holidays, as we're all being able to fly to certain markets again, it is interesting to see that the wide-body passenger bellies of those aircraft are increasing strongly, right? So this year to date, we're seeing 24% increase versus the year before, but we are still below 2019 levels of around 18%. The overall capacity footprint, though, is changing rapidly. Freighters are flying a little bit less this year in compensation for the increases that we've seen in other belly increases on trade lanes. And therefore, the overall capacity footprint is a positive one, 6% versus 22, but also higher than 2019 because the freighters are still relatively sticky. On some trades, you basically see where the bellies compensate for the freighter, belly increases compensate for freighter decreases. North America to Europe, very much a case in point. A lot of wide-body belly has been placed into that market, and freighters have been taken out accordingly. We see some similar developments from the Gulf into Europe, and also for another IAG big market, South America to Europe. We also highlighted here that we see some belly increases at the respite of small freighter decreases. Then overall normalization into Europe, interesting to see that we see especially the integrators being very active in that space. And this, by the way, is all defined in ATKs, not in tonnage that you saw on the graph before. So what does that mean to the relationship between demand and supply? As you basically see here, you see two, let's say, fixed lines, which is one is demand and capacity. And in 19, they were sort of in line. Capacity was outpacing demand. But then, of course, COVID hit us. And with all the capacity being taken out, especially because of the bellies, demand followed accordingly. But demand during COVID, as we all remember, was so strong that capacity couldn't cope. Right? So there was what we tend to call a demand-supply ratio, where there was just so much demand over supply. That flipped basically from mid 22 onwards, right, where we saw capacity increases, demand decreases, and we're now at a pace where capacity and demand are still not in sync. It is getting recently better, what we're hearing. Also keep in mind that not all of the e-commerce is in this overview, but still the gap is very large. And the moment that we see that capacity and demand are not in line with about more than 10 points, yeah, then we start to see very strange behaviors in terms of, let's say, market dynamics. So this is a graph that we're constantly updating, which you're very much monitoring of what's happening, about what could happen in the coming months. And then talking about the future, there's many things that we look at, but the one I would like to highlight, which is interesting for us, is the so-called inventory to sales ratio for the US. And let me guide you through it. So the theme behind it is basically, if you have inventory and if you have sales, the moment you have too much inventory, you don't need to fly. And as you can see here in 2009, during the financial crisis, you see the relationship between the two. Inventory to sales was going up, air freight was going down. We saw the reverse process in 2010 when recovery hit. Then we basically have seen from 2017 until 2009, let's say 18, 19, we saw more of a stable relationship. COVID hit us. There was a short time frame when all of a sudden there was hardly any demand, as factories were closed and stores were shut. But that flipped very fast. The inventory to sales ratio went down, air freight went up. However, in the last 14 months straight, with demand decreasing, inventories are piling up. But slowly and surely, we see that red line going down and air freight picking up. So we might be at the end of a curve. We hope so. Again, just one of the data points that we look at in terms of what may happen in the future, but an interesting one to watch. And with that, I'm actually going to give it back to you, Emma.
Thank you very much, Marco. If you've just joined us, this is an interactive episode with a Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions or comments for our guest speakers, then please do pop them into the comments box on your screen, or you can email them to marketingteam@iagcargo.com, and we'll get onto those at the end. Our next guest speaker is the Global Head of the Go Green Programme at DHL Global Forwarding, Catherine Brost. Over to you, Catherine.
Yeah, thank you, Emma. It's my pleasure to be here today and to talk about our sustainability program. So, sustainability is a topic which is really easy to endorse. Everyone supports it, but it's surprisingly difficult to do. So, if you want to create a long lasting positive impact, you really need to have a plan in place. And this is why we at the DHL Group try to focus on those areas where our responsibility is biggest. This is our environment, our people, and our industry. So, for each of these areas, we have defined a very clear commitment: clean operations for climate protection, great company to work for all, and highly trusted company. But most importantly, we have a very detailed roadmap in place. So we have defined very concrete actions for each area in connection with KPIs, which we monitor on a monthly basis. And on top of that, we set ourselves midterm targets. And we have publicly communicated a set of annual targets, which is even connected to the bonus scheme of all our top executives. So let's deep dive a little bit on our environmental protection program, Go Green. We committed to a science-based target, which means that by 2030, our carbon footprint shall be below 29 million tons of CO2, which is really rather challenging, taking into account that we are, of course, aiming to grow our market share. So, how will we achieve it? Well, if you want to decarbonize transportation, there are only two things you can do. You can um, either burn less or you can burn clean. Burning less means that you become more efficient. In essence, you use less energy, less fuel for the same transport work. And there's a multiple or multitude of levers you can apply, like modal shifts, intermodal solutions, routing optimization, load consolidation. So quite a few things, but to truly decarbonize, it's very important to move on to what we call the second S curve and to burn clean. In other words, using clean technologies and fuels which emit no or very little emissions. So, of course, we will continue to optimize our operation and try to become as efficient as possible. But we are very certain that the majority of our efforts need to be on burn clean initiatives. And in fact, when we developed our roadmap, we calculated that until 2030, we will need to invest 7 billion euros to really meet our decarbonization target. So if you look at road transport, electrification is going to play a key role. Um, but looking at air freight and ocean freight, we will very much rely on the use of sustainable fuels. So sustainable fuels are considered to be carbon neutral because the amount of CO2 they release during combustion is equal to the amount which was previously absorbed out of the atmosphere during production, or in case of biofuels, this amount of CO2 equals the amount of CO2 which the plants which are used for the feedstock previously absorbed out of the atmosphere during their growth time. Sorry. The future very clearly belongs to synthetic fuels, so to e-fuels. But right now, biofuels are the the sustainable fuel which is readily available, um, at least in some places of the world. And this is the challenge. So while biofuels are there and you can use them as a drop-in solution, so you don't need to change the engines or just modify them a little. The big challenge is that sustainable fuels or biofuels are only available at some places in the world. So if we want to scale up the availability of sustainable fuels, we need to increase the demand. And to increase the demand, we need to simplify the usage of sustainable fuels. In other words, we need mechanisms like mass balance or book and claim that allow carriers to use the fuels where they're available, and at the same time, these mechanisms also enable customers, shippers, forwarders to contribute financially to a sustainable fuel switch if in return they can claim the low emission profiles which are associated with the use of sustainable fuel. We call this the one atmosphere approach because what we want to convey is that in the end, there's only one atmosphere. And for our climate, it really does not matter where we avoid the usage of fossil fuels. The only thing which counts is that we increasingly use sustainable fuels because CO2 does not stop at borders, right? The global warming is a challenge which affects all countries and regions equally. So it's really key that we increase the usage no matter where really in the network. So in my division, DHL Global Forwarding, we have no own aircrafts, no own trucks, vessel. So we basically subcontract all our movements to carrier partners, which means that 99% of our emissions are so-called scope 3 emissions. And this is why we rely on our carrier partners like IAG Cargo to perform a sustainable fuel switch on our behalf. And the way it works, in summary, is basically as follows. We help to fund the significantly higher costs of the sustainable aviation fuel. IAG is using the fuel on our behalf, and because we help with the funding, we get in return the rights to claim the low emission profile um, of the sustainable aviation fuel, which is used on our behalf. And this is how we make use of a book and claim approach. And we can leverage the same mechanism for our customers, the shippers. And I think this is just really a great example how jointly from carrier to forwarder to shipper, we can make a difference. So we really need to team up, and we need to leverage each other's strength, and we need to bundle really the investments which are available, and then we can really abate global warming. So I truly believe that the time to decarbonize is now, but we must do this together. So, and then we will be able to make a huge difference. Thank you. With that, back to Emma.
Thank you very much, Catherine. That was really interesting to hear about your initiatives and also your partnership with IAG Cargo. Our final guest speaker for today is IAG Cargo's Head of Pharmaceuticals, Jordan Kolbeck. Over to you, Jordan.
Thanks very much, Emma, for the introduction. Really interesting insight and content shared from the speakers so far on today's show. Pleasure to be able to be joining you all. So, as mentioned already, my name is Jordan Kolbeck, Head of Pharmaceutical for IAG Cargo. Been in the role 5 months now, but with the business 4 years. Prior to my current role, I was Transformation Manager for Operations and People. And before that, I spent 2.5 years as our Constant Climate Sales Manager for the United Kingdom and Ireland region. It's a product I'm incredibly passionate about and very keen to be able to take today to showcase the product capabilities, but also 1 or 2 new items such as New Premier. So without further ado, with IAG Cargo, we have the ability to be able to utilise the combined strength of the airlines that you can see presented to you on this slide in front of you. British Airways servicing almost 200 international destinations and 13 domestic. Iberia providing great connectivity to Latin America with the 200 wide-body flights that we have per week departing Madrid. Vueling, our short-haul European carrier. Aer Lingus providing 89 dedicated wide-body flights out of the Dublin hub. And finally, Level, operating out of Barcelona, providing great connectivity to the likes of Boston, New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, but also down into Latin America to the likes of Buenos Aires. So, Constant Climate. Who are we and what is the product about? So it's our cold chain product dedicated to the transportation of pharmaceutical and life science products. We have 3 global hubs, Heathrow, Madrid and Dublin, where British Airways, Iberia and Aer Lingus are based respectively. All 3 of those hubs are Good Distribution Practice certified. Customers expect that we'll have an industry-leading product. Now, it's incumbent on us to be delivering on that expectation. We have a large, wide-ranging supplier portfolio, providing customers the opportunity to be able to utilise leasing options through the likes of CSafe, Docash and Envirotainer as active options, but also Vacatech as a passive possibility too. A large, wide-ranging, wide-body fleet, as mentioned on the previous slide, servicing a few of those destinations, and over 100 constant climate stations, so across our constant climate quality approved network. Excitingly enough, we've only just recently added Cincinnati, so CVG, to that list of constant climate quality approved stations. It brings the total number of North America constant climate quality approved stations to 21 and remains over 100 in terms of the overall offering. CVG is a particular pharmaceutical and healthcare sector hub and allows us to be able to support more customers globally to a really key destination, amongst others also. Talking of our hubs, so Heathrow, Madrid and Dublin. We'll start off with Madrid. It's a purpose-built facility built in 2019, provides temperature-controlled areas for 2 to 8 degrees and 15 to 25 degrees temperature-controlled shipments. It's a great gateway for us into Latin America, routing shipments from as far as Asia down into Latin America. We have an air bridge that operates from Heathrow to Madrid, 14 wide-body flights per week, providing great connectivity to the 200-plus wide-body flights we have departing every single week from our Madrid hub. Furthermore, we're able to mitigate against the risk of ramp transfer temperature exposure through our specialist fleet of temperature-controlled trucks, numbering 8 in total. They're inclusive of the product offering. It's a very efficient transfer time in terms of receiving the constant climate shipment within the truck from the facility. The shipment then moves in a temperature-controlled environment within that temperature-controlled truck to airside, where it waits inside the truck until it's ready to be loaded onto aircraft for onward departure. You can also see the constant climate chambers that we have at Madrid within the hub, 15 to 25 degrees and 2 to 8 at the bottom right-hand side of this slide. So our Dublin hub is the smallest facility in terms of size, but the Irish market is an incredibly significant one. It's good distribution practice certified under the Irish Exporters GDP Passport Programme. We have a temperature-controlled chamber with 2 temperature-controlled zones, 2 to 8 degrees and 15 to 25 degrees. And as mentioned before, the 89 wide-body flights we have per week leaving Dublin provides great transatlantic connectivity amongst other destinations also. The one that everyone's been waiting for, New Premier. So our latest addition in Heathrow, 10,470 meters squared of temperature control, 15 to 25 throughout, 11 rapid rise delivery doors. So that's an increase from the 6 previously, allowing us to service customers quicker, 20 build and break stations in a temperature controlled environment, 27 dedicated call cells, and a constant climate quality centre featuring 2 temperature control chambers at 2 to 8 degrees and 15 to 25 degrees, as photographed on the bottom of this slide, as you can see. Now, what I'll leave you with is a video of our new Premier facility, really showcasing the capabilities that the facility is able to offer, and our product Constant Climate can cater for our customers. Happy to take any questions at the end, or if you want to reach out separately, feel free to do so. But really appreciate your time joining us today, and thank you very much for listening.
New Premier, a groundbreaking new facility for handling premium freight. Tech-driven, temperature-controlled, semi-automated, and taking speed and efficiency to the next level. New Premier unlocks 10,470 meters squared of increased warehouse capacity. And the key to its superior efficiency begins with its proximity to the airfield. Located with direct on-airport access to London's Heathrow Airport, it's home to over 1,000 flights per day and one of the largest pharmaceutical networks in the world. But that's just the beginning. When it comes to game-changing capability, New Premier is proving that bigger really is better. With 20 workstations and 162 ULD storage positions, capacity for handling premium products has doubled overnight. 11 new delivery doors with dedicated weight scales are auto-assigned to drivers via call-forward screens, accelerating drop-off and collection. But as well as increased capacity, there's some seriously smart technology too. New Premier's market-leading warehouse management system, IAG Cargo, ensures that every pallet, crate and package is in exactly the right place at the right time. What's more, it's fully integrated with a brand new material handling system, a real world first. And when it comes to temperature control, things really get clever. New Premier includes a state-of-the-art constant climate quality centre for pharmaceuticals that's GDP certified by the UK's Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, MHRA. It uses superior temperature regulation to maintain temperatures between 2 to 8 degrees, 15 to 25 degrees, and minus 20 degrees. Supported by 29 dedicated ULD storage cold cells. Air curtain technology works in tandem with our rapid rise doors to form a thermal barrier and regulate temperatures even when the doors are open. For global supply chains, New Premier means new possibilities, delivering the highest standards that keep cargo safe and secure throughout the entire journey.
Thank you very much, Jordan, for sharing that video with us. So now we've come to the end of hearing from all of our guest speakers. We have time to take some of your questions. So one question has come through for Camilo, and they're asking, what plans does IAG Cargo have to solve Far East and New Zealand connectivity?
Great question. All right, thank you, Emma. So first of all, again, want to thank our guest speakers, Catherine, Mark, and Jordan. Excellent presentations in your respective topics. Very, very insightful. So in terms of the Far East and New Zealand, clearly we're aware of the strengths of our network across Atlantic, Latin America, North America, Africa, Middle East, India, and some parts of Asia. But we recognize that not all of Asia is covered within our network. So internally, we have given this a very high level in terms of priority in our objectives, and we have developed a program which is called Partner Ready. Partner Ready is a sophisticated interline proposition working much closer than the basic interline with our carrier partners in that part of the world, which is now allowing us to start, and we will get much deeper in that relationship, to bring freight from origins where we don't operate across our network and vice versa, offering our capacity to other partners that also need to cover their network. So interline is an old thing in the industry. It has been there. It is clunky. And with Partner Ready, we are working to make the processes of handling freight between different carriers much easier, even getting to a point where interline will be able to be booked online very soon.
Great, thank you very much, Camilo. A question has come through from Marco. They've asked, on which trade lanes would you expect demand and capacity ratio to change significantly in Q4 and beyond?
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, so answering that, as you saw from the graphs I presented, there are very different profiles when it comes to demand and capacity. We would expect, for example, on the transatlantic capacity to be moderating, of course, since we're going into the winter season, less holiday flying, demand to pick up a little bit. So let's say that relationship between demand and capacity to easen. I would also expect that to happen on Transpac and on Asia to Europe. Demand is picking up a bit. The belly increases that we've been seeing may not increase that much in the coming time. So there may be some easing. So that's actually some good news for Q4 on various trade lanes, which is needed, I would say.
Great, thank you, Marco. Another question has come through for Jordan. They've asked, are your Madrid temperature-controlled trucks inclusive of the product offering?
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, I can confirm. Yeah, so there's 8 in total, as mentioned on the slides. They're inclusive of the overall constant climate product offering. So good news to being able to mitigate that risk of transfer temperature transfer exposure, ramp transfer.
Thanks, Jordan. And now another one's come through for Camilo. They've asked, what is our plan ex-India in the near future?
Great. Well, I did said in my opening words that India was one of our key markets and one that personally I'm very, very attracted to. So very pleased to say that at this point we are beyond the capacity that we were offering in 2019. We're currently operating 56 flights per week out of India, out of 5 origins. In Delhi, we're double daily, Mumbai with triple daily, and then Hyderabad, Chennai, and Bangalore daily flights. So the capacity is there. Now is what are we going to do with that capacity? And there are 3 things that I would mention that are key areas of focus. Constant climate, clearly India being a key origin for this product. We've got the facility, as Jordan just presented. We've got the expertise locally, and we've got the partnership with the suppliers at the different stage of the supply chain. So constant climate was one. Online bookings, online penetration is a key area of focus for us in India as in the rest of the world, but also with a high level of spot rate activity that goes in the Indian market. We're very keen to see the effect that this is going to have once we roll out the spot capabilities online that I also mentioned earlier. And then from a commodity perspective, we have all heard about the move of factories and production from some of the Far East into India. And we are starting to pick up more mobile phone movements and high tech. So that's perhaps an area which we will keep very close attention to in the near future.
Great, thank you, Camilo. Sadly, that's all we've got time for today, but thank you to our guest speakers for taking part. And of course, a huge thank you to all of you for joining us. You can stay up to date with the latest IAG Cargo news by heading over to our website to sign up to receive emails from us, and you can follow us on our social media channels. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your week.